5 things women plead for, but men never attempt. There is a subtle reality about women and sex that too many men fail to recognize. It is not in books, it is not shared in locker rooms, and it is definitely not depicted in the superficial portrayals of passion on screens. Rather, it is transmitted through the quiet conversations among women, in the laughter that explodes after secrets are shared, and in the sighs that confess what they really want when no one is around to hear. These are the truths that generally center on desire, not the ephemeral variety, but the kind that consumes, that lingers, that draws a woman from present in her body to alive in her soul. And in that hidden space, there are certain positions women plead for, not always in words, but with yearning eyes, with small movements of the body, with the soft pain of being unmet by the scripted responses men so frequently follow. You see, men tend to think they know. They believe that repetition is mastery. That doing what they've done before has to be sufficient because it's served once or twice in the past. But what gets won by once cannot smolder forever. What lights today's fire can fizzle tomorrow if it is not fanned, remade, re-envisioned. Women desire that remaking. They desire men who are willing to move out of the usual, to leave behind the stale beat of routine, and instead create intimacy as if it were a work of art, every brushstroke distinct, every moment intentional. This is why these positions are important. They are not physical postures. They are invitations. Invitations to a woman's deeper world. Invitations to the uncharted zones of her pleasure. Invitations to touch not just her body, but the very beat of her femininity. When a woman pleads for these positions, she is not pleading for indulgence. She is pleading for recognition. She is asking to be noticed not only as a body to pleasure, but as a being to awaken. She is asking her lover to enter courage, to go beyond the security of the familiar, to have faith that in letting go of the unknown, they will find intimacy much more substantial than routine can provide. These positions are not for the faint of heart, nor for those who merely wish to check a box. They are for lovers who risk to become adventurers, who risk turning a night into an odyssey and a touch into a symphony. Think for a moment about what takes place when a woman feels fully desired, not in the superficial sense of being gazed at, but in the deep sense of being known. Her body reacts differently, her energy opens, her vulnerability flower into trust, and in that trust, her pleasure multiplies, expanding not merely across her skin, but spreading out from the depths of her soul. It is here, in this room, that these musicians demonstrate their strength. They are not stunts. They are not gimmicks. They are bridges. Bridges to more passion, to deeper surrender, to the type of intimacy which causes a woman to recall not only the instant, but the man who would dare to bring it into being. The first of these positions contains within it a paradox, control and submission woven together. It is the type of role where the woman experiences her power and yet also feels held, guided, supported. Most men avoid it because they misinterpret it. They believe that it is about giving up dominance when in reality it is about establishing balance. Women implicitly yearn for this because it empowers them to express their lust without shame, to dance to the rhythm of their pleasure, to initiate while remaining anchored in the power of their partner. When she is granted that autonomy, when she is urged to find her own tempo, something enchanting occurs. She ceases to be a participant. She becomes a creator, building the very experience she desires, fashioning it with her own body, her own voice, her own rhythm. And the man who grants this does not become powerless. He becomes reverenced because she will regard him and see he was willing to let her radiate. Then there is another position, one saturated in closeness, so deep it almost is spiritual, not acrobatics or acts of daring flexibility, but of closeness so deep that each breath, each heartbeat, each shudder of skin against skin is sensed. The type of position where eyes lock and do not release, where foreheads touch, where words are superseded by silence, because the silence speaks more loudly than anything else could. Women need this because it fulfills something more than lust. It fulfills the craving for connection, the craving to be bound so strongly to another that for one moment the world drops away and there are only two souls. Men don't even attempt this because they confuse strength with intensity, thinking that passion has to be loud, forceful, urgent. But women understand that sometimes the greatest passion lies in quiet, in gentleness, in the burning steady fire that does not shout but speaks softly, than the wild flame that consumes too quickly. The third position is one of vulnerability. It exposes her quite literally, but not in the way that makes her feel objectified. Instead, It makes her feel cherished because it is a position where she cannot hide, where she must trust, where she must allow her partner to see her in the rawness of her desire. This position is often avoided by men who fear they will not know what to do with such vulnerability. Men who prefer predictability over the sensitive burden of trusting another human being. But women plea for it exactly because of its fragility. Here, her surrender is not frailty. It is courage. It is the courage to declare, I trust you with me. And the man who accepts that trust wisely will discover that she offers more than her body. She offers her soul. There is also a role that stirs a woman's feeling of being pursued, of being desired with an hunger that cannot be hidden. It is raw, primal, wild. It tells her that under all the romance and gentleness, there is a fire that will not be tamed. Women will not always say it out loud, but they hunger for this intensity. They want to feel desired in a way that is almost desperate, to be taken not as an afterthought, but as the very core of a man's desire. Men are afraid to approach here because they think it will be too much, too bestial, too beyond the limits of what they think women desire. But when done gently, when done out of love for her charm, this position stirs something primeval in her. The part of her that knows passion is not always polite, knows love is not always kind, that sometimes to be wanted is to be consumed. And then finally, there is the position that surprises her, that catches her off guard, that reminds her intimacy is not a script, but an improvisation. This is the position that demands creativity, that takes her out of the expected and into the unknown. Women beg for this not because of the position itself, but because of what it represents, the willingness of her partner to try to experiment, to find with her. It informs her that she is not with a man content with being mediocre, but with a man who thinks that her pleasure is an enigma to be unraveled, a path to be followed again and again without ever believing the map is finished. This stance above all others reminds her that intimacy is alive, that it can be reborn each time, that it never must dwindle into boredom if both lovers are willing to hold discovering. The shame is that so many men never tempt themselves. They stay stuck in the loop of habit, believing what they already know is sufficient, afraid to risk the unknown. And yet the irony is that the unknown holds the deepest pleasures. The unknown holds the most memorable nights. The unknown holds where she feels not merely satisfied, but noticed, not merely touched, but changed. These 5 positions are not secrets because women do not wish to tell them. They are secrets because women have tired of asking, wary of hinting, wary of being met with silence when what they desire is exploration. What they desire is not perfection. What they desire is presence. They desire a partner who does not fear to ask, does not fear to attempt, does not fear to be vulnerable himself. They desire a lover who does not see intimacy as duty, but as a dance, a space where two hearts and 2 souls may meet in endless ways. They desire someone who knows these positions are not mere mechanics, but meaning. Meaning that reads, I see you, I choose you, I desire you enough to venture beyond what is safe. And when a man can risk taking that space, when he can risk attempting what others disregard, when he can risk giving her what she has softly pleaded for, he does not simply become her lover in bed. He becomes irrevocable. He becomes the one she recalls long after the instant is gone, the one whose touch resonates in her body, the one whose bravery woke her own. He becomes the comparator by which all others are measured. When a woman is given this degree of presence, her whole self reacts in ways men often underestimate. It is not merely her body that arches, not only her skin that prickles. It is her mind that unwinds, her feelings that unfurl, her heart that starts to sing in soft thankfulness. Because for so long women have been trained to accept less. They have been taught to muffle their desires, to stifle the fullness of their yearning, to feign that procedure is satisfactory, and yet deep inside the hunger continues to be. It whispers in her when she's alone. It lingers in her when she contrasts fantasy with reality. It pains her when she asks herself if her lover will ever see the parts of her that she keeps unseen. That is why these positions are so meaningful. They are more than about technique. They are icons of her being seen in her wholeness, body and spirit. Ponder the change that happens when a woman understands that her lover is willing to enter this place with her. The walls she erected years of disappointment start to break down. The wariness she used to carry around begins to lose hold. She no longer feels compelled to beg, to suggest, to hope in silence. She is seen without apology, heard without words, touched without request. And that is a freedom that is intoxicating. It is a freedom that causes her to fall not only deeper into her own pleasure, but deeper into love, because she knows that this man has bestowed her what so many others denied, the gift of his courage. Every woman has at some time dreamed of intimacy that exceeds what she has received. Occasionally, she has seen herself in a situation in which she is absolutely in power, cresting waves of her own beat. Occasionally, she has dreamed of being in a situation of nearness, where all of her body is kissed by his regard. Occasionally, she has daydreamed about vulnerability, about the holy risk of opening herself be heard in rawness. And occasionally, she has yearned for the wild, the primal, the feral greed of being devoured in passion. And yet repeatedly men come back to the known, insensitive to the silent pain in her eyes, numb to the unspoken request in her silence. It is not that women do not speak, it is that men often don't hear with more than their ears. A woman speaks with her breathing, with her moving hips, with the manner in which her body leans toward or pulls away from touch. She speaks with her silence, with her hesitation, with the manner in which her energy opens or narrows in the instant. A man who notices these cues becomes sensitive, almost like a musician no longer reading the sheet, but sensing the melody. And when he introduces this sensitivity into these positions, he turns them from mechanical poses into living poetry. The tragedy of routine is not only that it robs a woman of her deepest desires, it also robs a man of his greatness. For in confining himself to the predictable, he denies himself the chance to become unforgettable. He settles for adequacy when he could become extraordinary. He resigns himself to being just another partner, another body, another passing experience, when he could instead be the memory that lingers in her long after the night is over. The standard by which she quantifies passion, the tale she never forgets. These roles are not reserved for her alone. They are reserved for him as well, because they open up a level of intimacy that changes both mates. Look at the first role again, the one that allows her freedom while tying her to his strength. What most men do not understand is that this is not all about her control. This is about his desire to relinquish ego. Too many men hold on to control out of fear, equating dominance with strength, where in reality true strength is found in trust. Trust that she can be led without lessening his value. Trust that her joy can lead without diminishing his worth. When he gives up on that desire to control, he finds that her joy makes his more so. Her moans become his prize, her rhythm his orchestra, her ecstasy his victory, and she in turn no longer sees him as weak, but rather as brave, because it takes courage to let her shine without fear of losing his own light. The second position, the one wrenched in closeness and connection, is dismissed as too easy, but its ease is its strength. To look into her eyes while moving together is not easy. It is daunting. It requires presence. It requires that he present himself not only with his body, but with his heart. In this position, there is no escape into distraction, no hiding behind performance. It is raw, intimate, transparent. And though some men recoil from that intensity, women crave it because it melts the distance that routine so often creates. It reminds her that she is not simply being touched. She is being met fully, wholly, completely. And in that meeting, she feels safe enough to open the parts of herself she usually keeps concealed. The third position, vulnerability embodied, has its own sacred weight. To be laid bare in that way is not simply a physical movement. It is an emotional gift. It is saying, I trust you not to hurt me, not to hurry me, not to use my vulnerability as exploitation. And when a man accepts that gift with respect, when he does not misuse it, but honors it, she feels something she doesn't often feel in this world, safe in her nakedness. Not only physical nakedness, but emotional nakedness. She feels understood in her softness, in her rawness, in her surrender. And in that safety, her desire becomes greater than anything she could have achieved on her own. The fourth position, primal and needy, fills a hunger women are too shy to even confess. Because they have been told to be gentle, to be soft, to be polite, women hide the part of themselves that craves to be devoured, that yearns to be taken with passion. But deep within every woman is that fire, that animalistic desire to be desired beyond reason. When a man stirs it within her without cruelty, without selfishness, but with awe for her beauty, he releases a part of her that she has locked away. And once released, it does not fade. It sears into her memory, branding him as the one who had the audacity to touch not just her body, but the primitive depths of her soul. The fifth, the position of surprise, contains the magic of play. So many relationships lose their steam not because love dies, but because play dies. They have forgotten that intimacy is meant to be fun, adventurous, unpredictable. This position reignites that flame, reminding her that passion can be spontaneous, that desire can be rekindled in a moment of laughter, a change of angle, an experiment of courage. When a man experiments with something new, he tells her, "You are worth the risk of discovery. You are worth my curiosity. You are worth stepping out of comfort for." And in that message, she hears love in its most dynamic form. Love that grows, love that adapts, love that refuses to die in repetition. So many men ask themselves why women drift away, why passion disappears, why the connection they once shared seems to wither. They believe it is inevitable that time erodes desire, that routine is the natural end of intimacy. But the truth is, passion only fades when curiosity expires. Desire only fades when exploration ceases. Connection only falters when presence is gone. These positions are not novelty, seeking for the sake of novelty. They are novelty, seeking for the sake of keeping intimacy alive, for the sake of demonstrating her again and again that she is worth rediscovery, worth reawakening, worth seeking as if she were new every single time. And when she knows she is not taken for granted, that her pleasure is not assumed but actively sought, her loyalty grows deeper, her passion grows stronger, her commitment blossoms. For women give more when they are made to feel cherished. They open more when they are made to feel desired. They yield more when they are made to feel secure. And the man who knows this, who employs these positions not as deceptions but as tools of reverence, shall find himself not only in the flesh of his lover, but in the innermost recesses of her heart. It is a false belief that women are difficult to please, that their desires are impossible to solve, mysterious puzzles. But the truth is not very complex. Women are not difficult to please. They are difficult to deceive. They are smart enough to detect when a man is in their presence and when he is distracted. They can tell when he is searching for her benefit and when he is acting for his ego. They can tell when he is risking because he respects her and when he is holding back because he dreads being vulnerable. These stands are not physiological complexity. They are about emotional honesty. They are about saying without words, "I am here fully with you." The beauty of intimacy is that it does not require perfection. It requires courage. Courage to try, courage to fail, courage to ask, courage to listen. A woman does not beg for these positions because she wants a flawless performance. She begs because she wants to be taken seriously in her desire. She wants to feel that her fantasies are not excessive, that her longing is not unseemly, that her hunger is not shameful. She desires to be reminded that she can ask for everything and not receive judgment, but willingness. What? And when she discovers that when she encounters a man who is unafraid to give her what she wants, she gives back in ways he never imagines. The man who takes the risk of entering into this space finds that intimacy is not drudgery, but a celebration. It is not something to be done, but something to be received. It is not a matter of performance, but of presence. And in the light of that understanding, he will see why women plead for these positions. Not because they are hidden techniques, but because they are doorways into a kind of intimacy that is rare, deep, unforgettable, doorways into a love that is alive, ever changing, ever deepening, doorways into a connection that lingers not just in memory, but in the very essence of her,